everybody, it's Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus with Threshold of Hineni, and I'm just getting ready for bed, and so I thought that I would catch you all up on my day and maybe read a little bit in here. I haven't decided where I want to read yet tonight. I'm thinking, I feel like I should go into Job because that's where everybody goes when things aren't good, but I don't really like Job very much. I like the beginning and I like the end. The middle, where his friends are just being horrible to him, I don't like. My friends have been really good, so. But there's probably stuff I could really get from Job, so I might go there. Or Psalms, or even Philippians 4, which I'm kind of leaning towards. But Philippians is like my favorite book of the Bible, so I tend to go there a lot. Philippians and Isaiah. So I tend to go those two places a lot, and I should branch out. But now may not be the time. Anyway, so today's Thursday. It's a week and 4 days since Bill died. And it's just really weird today. It's like I didn't cry as much. I did cry some, but I didn't cry as much. But I have felt really depressed all day. Sad, but also just like in a fog, and my body is having a hard time moving. And I've been reading this grieving book, and it's really good. And I think that I'm being pretty normal, as far as normal can go. So that's okay. So I'm not worried about it. And I think it does help to be reading a book like that, or I don't know, maybe watching these videos might help too. But I'm not being as comprehensive as they are. I think reading a book would be the best thing. It helps to know that that the way you're handling it is okay, and that you're not like having a psychotic break, or you're not already psychotic or something, because sometimes you really do feel like it. Like I just feel, I've heard this before, but I never really experienced it until now. Like you feel like, how can the rest of the world go on normal? Don't they know that Bill died? It's like, and that really is a huge loss for the world. He was such a wonderful man. He was just so sweet and kind and loving, and an artist with his sweaters. He was incredible, and as far as I know, because we looked around and we couldn't find anybody who was doing the same thing that he was doing with sweaters. So it's really sad that he didn't get the chance to pass that on. Anyway, so that's kind of how my day went. Well, and then also, so the main task that I was trying to get done today, and it really helps me just with my personality, it helps me to have a to-do list. I live by to-do lists all the time, but especially when I'm having a hard time thinking, it just makes it so I can just do this, check it off, do this, check it off, do this, check it off. So I taught my classes today from 5 or 5:30, I think 5:30 till 10, and did the evaluations for that and everything. And then I took a nap. But I always take naps anyway. Ever since I got Lyme, I've needed to take naps, and it's really helped. And I might lie down for 2 hours and get half an hour sleep, but it still helps. And then my parents came over, and so I worked on my finances. I worked on sorting out all of the bills and everything, all the papers that Bill had all over the place. He had them organized in his own way, and I organize this way with a lot of things, where I just have like things in piles and stuff, but I know exactly where stuff is, but I don't know where stuff is in his filing system. And so I got a file box, for hanging file folders, and I got file folders. I love file boxes, and I love hanging files, and I love file folders. You just have to understand that they bring me joy, even in the midst of this kind of thing. It just felt good to organize stuff. It just felt really good to organize stuff. And, not that he didn't have it organized. He did, but not the way that I need to have it organized. And so my dad told me that the best thing to do would be to start out by just dividing things up into each company. Okay, so like all the, Bill had a whole bunch of past bills that were already paid, but this will give us the pattern. And I'm telling you this in case you're going through something like this, that you know a good way to do this. My dad's a CPA. He's organized a lot of people's finances after like somebody dies and stuff like that, or somebody brings in a paper bag full of stuff and he can organize it. So anyway, so he had me, and it's kind of temporary to do it this way. It's just so that we can get a handle of what the patterns are and what's going on, and what might be past due, because, it's been 2 weeks almost since he died. So there could be things that were due in between then and now that he was planning to pay. And, I haven't, because I haven't paid anything because I don't know what's going on. So like, I have all the utilities in one hanging file folder, but then I've got smaller file folders in there for each of the utilities, and all of our credit cards in one hanging file, but a different file for each credit card, and taxes and stuff. And then I've got all of our income producing things, because Bill and I really believe in multiple streams of income. That is a subject for another whole time. But I just think that that's really good that we do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So anyway, so just sorting all that stuff. And then I'll go through, when I'm done getting all the papers into the various files, and I'll go through each file and I will put everything into order with the current date up in the front. Although I have a separate folder for all the bills that have come in since the day he died, so that, I have all the current stuff, hopefully. I know he did, pay bills and arranged for bills to be paid while he was going to be up in Maryland, because when I had looked in our bank account, it had like all these bill pay things, like maybe 20 of them that were set to go, set to fire off, so things got paid. So that's really good that I don't have to really worry about that. So just getting that all organized, and normally that would make me feel kind of euphoric. You guys, I'm not kidding. I love file folders, and I love 3x5 cards too, I don't own stock, but I really, really should. And, but anyway, it didn't make me happy, but I didn't feel miserable. I felt, it's so hard to explain. I feel really in a fog, and I feel depressed, and that's how I feel today. But the filing and stuff helped. Getting things organized is really helpful for me, because then I know what I'm dealing with. And, I've got to figure out my finances, and I've got to figure out what my routine is going to be, not just with finances, but with life, because now I have to do the things that I was doing and the things that Bill was doing for our household and stuff. There are some things that he was doing, like knitting sweaters, that I can't do, but I can still sell the sweaters that we've got. And, so that was basically today. And my parents were over for like, I don't know, maybe 6 hours or so, which was really helpful. And they've been really good about when I need to get away and get my alone time, then I just like go into my room and lie down and whatever for a little while, or go on my computer for a short time. And I took a couple breaks like that today, because I just needed to be alone. And there's nothing wrong with that. You guys, if you're going through this, there are times when you just need to be alone. So that's how it was. And so anyway, I want to spend a little bit of time in my Bible before I go to sleep. And so I thought that I would bring you guys along with me. I am going to do Philippians 4. I'm sorry that I'm not going to put more variety into my life, but it's just very comforting because it's very familiar to me. So Philippians, if you are looking to join me, and I would recommend that you get your Bible, it's in the New Testament. You go past Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You go partway through the epistles. We've got Galatians, Ephesians, and then Philippians. Okay, so here's Philippians. Ooh, I haven't marked this up. We're going to have to go through and do a Bible study on this, but not tonight. Tonight I'm just doing this little section for me because I need it right now. So the parts, I've got hot chocolate because, because Bill and I found that I sleep better when I drink some hot chocolate at night. And I've tried other things like chamomile tea and stuff. Nothing works. They all make me pee all night. So the hot chocolate works really well for me. And normally I do all my stuff all day. He does his stuff all day. He comes home from Walmart. I usually take time with my sewing machine. It's my alone time with my sewing machine, and he really encouraged me to do that. and and then I come out and I get ready for bed, and I come out there and I have a hot chocolate while I sit and talk to him. And since he hasn't been here for me to talk to, I've kind of forgotten to do that. And so I'm sure that there are other reasons why I'm not sleeping besides hot chocolate, which, just everything that happened is keeping me from sleeping. But maybe the hot chocolate will help. So anyway, okay, so what we're looking at is, let's look at verse 6, and we might get into verse 7 and 8. We'll just see. Okay, so it says, be anxious for nothing. And my dad just mentioned to me that he always thought since he was a kid that anxious there meant like, oh, I'm so anxious for that to happen. And so he thought that God was saying that we couldn't be excited about things and looking forward to things and everything. So I just want to point out that that's not what that means. I could see how he would think that. It means anxious means to worry. So like you probably knew that because nowadays we use the term anxiety quite a bit. So it's the same root. So it's like, don't have anxiety about anything is basically what he's saying here. So be anxious for nothing, or don't worry about anything. Yeah, don't have anxiety, don't worry. Don't worry about anything. And, and that's it is kind of a theme, I guess, through the Bible, is not worrying and not being afraid. And, maybe I should go through and find all the places that say, don't be afraid or don't worry. Don't worry, that would be good. Anyway, so don't worry about anything, basically. And in everything by prayer and supplication. Okay, so supplication is part of prayer. Prayer is just spending time talking with God. It's not, you don't have to say, Dear Jesus. You can, but you don't have to. You don't have to make it like a letter, like we've been taught, fold your hands, close your eyes and stuff. That was basically so little children wouldn't be like playing. But you can be in the supermarket, you can be in the produce section talking to God. And you can be driving your car with your eyes open, talking to God. And you can talk to God in your bed, whatever. That's prayer. It's just talking to God. That's prayer. Okay, supplication is when you're asking for something. Okay, so if there's something that you would be worrying about here where it says be anxious for nothing, okay, so instead of worrying about it, we're supposed to ask God. We're supposed to pray, talk to God, and ask Him to meet our needs. Okay, so that's a good reminder for me that whenever I'm starting to feel anxious about something, because my finances are completely unknown at this point because Bill was completely taking care of them. And I would really highly recommend, guys, if you're taking care of your family's finance, or women, whoever is taking care of the family's finance, make sure that your spouse knows how you've got things organized and keep them up to date on what's going on. And make sure that they know where your will and insurance papers and all that stuff are, and vice versa. My dad is doing something really good with my mom. At least she told me like a year ago or so that he was doing this, so I assume he still is, in that he's teaching her how to pay the bills and write the checks, because he's been doing that for 60 years for them, and almost 60 years, 59 years. So if something happens to him, she would have no clue, but now she does. And I've seen her kind of become a little bit more financially confident because she knows how to do this, and that's really good. So, I would suggest whoever's in charge of your finances, have the other person do it once a month. Once every 6 months or so. Do all the bills for that month once every 6 months or so. And I'm just that's an arbitrary number, but just so that they learn how to do it, and you are there to help them, and maybe even make sure that they know how to write and follow a budget. And so what was that? What did that have to do with this? Be anxious for nothing, but in everything. Oh, I was just saying there's a lot to worry about with my finances. Oh my word, that was a rabbit trail. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so there's a lot to worry about. So instead of worrying about those things, and that means like, it doesn't mean I slap myself when I start worrying, oh, you're such a bad person. No, just take that thought captive, which is from 1st or 2nd Corinthians, and we can look at that another time too. That'd be really good. but take every thought captive. So when I start feeling fearful, like, oh my goodness, what if I'm not going to have enough money to live on? Okay, that's not productive. and it's fear-based. And so take that thought captive. It's like, I just imagine kind of like all these little soldiers coming along and corralling that thought, and then they put a big lid over it, and then they take it off and they blow it up. That's how you take something captive. Anyway, so take that thought captive and instead pray with supplication. So talk to God and ask him to take care of that thing that you're worried about. Okay? And thank him, because you know, you have faith that if you ask him for something, he's going to give it to you. You know, as long as you're asking within his will. You know, if you're asking for something that's wrong or something that's not part of his will, then no. And then you can be confident that whatever his will is what's right and good for you. Okay, so asking God to take care of the things that I'm worried about. Okay. And with thanksgiving. Okay, that's what I was talking about. So the reason you should thank God at the time that you ask him is because you know that he's already answered it. You may not see the manifestation of that. And Pastor Hardaway one time had a great way of explaining something being manifest. My daughter at the time was pregnant with twins. And he said, they called me AK there. Just like AK's daughter has these twins inside of her, and they are alive. They are already real people. They don't become people when they're born. They're already real people. But they haven't been manifested yet. When they're born, we'll get to see them and they'll be manifested. Okay, but they already exist as people. So it's the same thing with this. It's like once God has decided that something's going to happen, it's happened. That's it. You know, we may not see the manifestation of it yet, but it has happened. Whatever he promises will happen. So it's kind of a way of showing your faith when you thank God for the answers to the supplications that you've made, the answers to the prayer that you made asking for things. So he says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Okay, it's not that he doesn't already know, because God knows everything. But he wants to hear us say it. Just like when our kids, there's something going on in their life or whatever, and we might know exactly what's going on, but we want to hear it from them. We want to give them the opportunity to express it. And it also helps us to kind of work through things. I find that when I bring something to God like this, and I talk to him about it, it's not even just all about him taking care of it. It's that the fact that I've talked about it with him and I've made that known to him just makes me feel so much better. You know, it's like getting this burden off my chest and I give it to him, and it's this huge boulder that I can barely walk around with, and I'm losing it because it's so heavy. I give it to him and it's just a teeny tiny pebble. Okay, so he can handle it. Don't ever worry about God being too busy. I've had several ladies lately tell me that they didn't want to bother God with something. God can handle everything all at one time. Okay, so never ever be afraid to take things to God. Okay, and it says that as a result of that, the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, in other words, it goes beyond anything that you could even imagine, anything that you can understand. That peace that no one's going to understand, and people are going to say, wow, he or she has so much peace in this really horrible situation. And it's going to glorify God because it's not something that you could give to yourself. It has to come from God. Okay, and so you'll glorify God, other people will glorify God. That will happen because of his answering your prayer. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. I love that. I love that it guards. And I think of, well, first of all, if I remember right, Paul was writing this in prison. So he was seeing, a Roman guard all the time. And so he's kind of thinking of that. But it's like, how would you like to have your heart and your mind guarded by the peace of God? the peace of God is there saying, nope, anxiety, you're not allowed to come in here because I'm guarding this place and I'm bigger than you. Okay? So that's exactly what's happening is God guards our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. It's kind of funny because it tells you to not be anxious for anything. And you know how I was talking about taking every thought captive? Well, here you are before you even have to take it captive because it's just not even going to get in. It's going to guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. That is really awesome. Okay, I take a couple of over-the-counter herbal stuff and Tylenol PM to help me sleep, and it is totally taking effect. And I don't want to sound like I'm on drugs. So that's it, you guys. I love you, love you, love you. I feel better now. I don't feel as depressed as I did before I sat down to talk to you guys. I should have done this earlier in the day, and I would have had a much better day. It was a good day. It wasn't bad. It's just me. I wasn't doing well. Okay, so anyway, I love you all, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.